Right, ladies and gentlemen, it is General Greene, and we officially enter the banana zone. The banana zone. So, what do I mean by this? Well, the global elites and the cabal have a massive Bitcoin cryptocurrency reset that, of course, I've been telling you for a very long time was already pre planned decades ago. They'd only just duped the American people because they hate you. And they called it a scam all these years because they wanted you poor and broke. Because you were being conned, just like 2008-09, in a massive deep state setup. Please like and share this video. Of course, I am General Greene, Christopher Greene, coming to you from beautiful La Jolla Booyah. It actually is completely striking and amazing. In fact, there was a little baby seal right over here on this rock. I don't know if you can see, right over there in front of my house. Late last evening, he's just sitting there kind of doing his thing. It was pretty awesome, man. It's a blessing, amazing, right? This human experience, to be able to experience the transient nature of our reality that, by the way, is timeless and never ends, because there's no such thing as time, but that's another subject. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about what's going to happen next, how to seize record enormous gains in profits in the coming days, and basically, what the dirty scum cabal's up to next, what they're going to do, how they're going to hammer the American people, and what they've got planned for you tuning in. But here's the cool thing. All of you tuning in are much smarter than these people. And because you've been tuned into me for so long, multiple decades, you're way ahead of the curve. And you're going to be able to pivot, leverage yourself, and profit during the greatest wealth transfer storm in economic financial world history. So it's exciting. Just like any great change in historical times, or the introduction of a new chapter of a book or a new epic, there's always going to be massive opportunities in that disruption. So let's explain. A couple big stories came out today. Let's talk about the up only for a minute. J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, just spoke a few minutes ago. And what did he say? He said that soon, near 100 million Americans will own precious Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. A 2x from the current estimates of just 50 million or so Americans owning any form of crypto. Now, keep in mind, I would argue the number's a lot smaller, because of the 50 million probably own very, very little crypto, right? Maybe it's like 1% of their portfolio. They're not all in like the general, right? So, by the way, going all in makes you rich in life. You create your wealth in concentrated positions. You go all in. Once you get really wealthy, you start diversifying. That's how it works. Most people make most of their money in their businesses or in a single winning investment. Then they diversify later. You don't really start out diversified. But that's another story. But J.D. Vance said, at the very bare minimum, as the Trump White House ushers in the golden age utopia of a complete apocalyptic up-only bull run, more wealth will be brought into the precious Bitcoin holders than has ever occurred in world history. That at the very least, conservatively, we can expect at least a doubling of the American population imminently owning Bitcoin and crypto. Currently, it sits at about 50 million people. So 100 million, even if we just went 2x, then you would expect Bitcoin to 2x. But I would argue it'll do a lot more than that, because, of course, Wall Street, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, that all hate you and told you Bitcoin was a scam all these years, is gobbling it all up. And you must understand that this is a new way that the financial elites, through engineering, are able to trade the old debt that can never be paid back, the 36 trillion, into the new debt. So the old debt, which will never be paid back, is just going to move to another technology. And as I've explained that, that is why global governments have their stranglehold on stablecoins. And that's why the legislation is so important right now, because governments, especially the United States, want to make sure that they have complete control of that marketplace. And that will allow governments, through their legislations and laws, to force Circle, that owns USDC, and the other stable coins like Tether, and Trump's USD1, which they just allotted like $2 billion from an Abu Dhabi fund, by the way, and others like DAI, and there's new ones coming to market quite frequently, will be forced to be backed by US T-bonds and Treasury bills. So the USDC is backed 1-to-1 by the Treasury debt that they created from nothing, backed by nothing, that's hyperinflationary, that they're never going to pay back. But now they just, see how they did that? See how they did that like a magician, you know, with the 3 cups, right? You got all the fake dirty debt and they just move it to the other side. So no one wants our bonds anymore, including Americans, because Americans' trust and faith is at zero in terms of the federal government's debt load. In fact, we had terrible news earlier today from Elon Musk, which I'll get to in a moment. So no one wants to buy a bond. You'd have to be an idiot. Or you'd have to be Warren Buffett, who gets specialized treatment and guaranteed bailouts to even consider that risk. That's why he's able to hold the bonds. He doesn't care because he knows that the government and Wall Street is there for him. If anything goes wrong, of course Warren Buffett's going to get paid. But if you own a T-bond and it collapses in a Pigs Nation style collapse, you ain't getting anything. Just like 2008 and 09. Your home will be confiscated with government force. And then the same banks that caused the collapse, that wrote and securitized the fake mortgage-backed securities that caused the collapse and the bubble, seize your property. So then that way they made a profit on the way up and the way down, and then they'll sell it again. See how that worked? So no one wants American bonds. No one. And Japan is unraveling. Its major life insurance companies are now bankrupt. And they have billions, if not trillions of dollars now in an unraveling Japanese yen carry trade that is going haywire, in massive paper losses that Japan's going to have to do something, either bailouts or they're going to have to cut into negative interest rates, NERP, negative interest rate policies, or something along those lines. So no one wants our bonds. So we have a problem here in the United States. No one wants the dirty trash hooker that makes up these fake USD hyperinflationary pieces of crap. I mean, the only people they can con into even buying this useless turd is people like Warren Buffett. But again, he's backstopped. So understand why he owns bonds and why you shouldn't. And so they figured out a long time ago that they'll create a new buyer. See how they did that? Create a problem, get the reaction from the public, and then give you the solution to what they'd always designed long before any of these things, transpired, because of course this was their end goal from day one. Massive wealth transfer, wipeout of you, the middle class, destruction of the modern society as we know it, collapse of Wall Street, and transition and absorption into the new technology. And this has been my primary thesis and what I've exactly told you for like 20 years now. I said they were setting up a transitory period where they would then move you into the new technology suddenly. And instead of governments banning it, like everyone said, but you were wrong, not you, but a lot of people that said that, and they were wrong about Bitcoin, they would simply just go move into it and bring all the dirty debt over and then reset it. And that's what they're doing now. So what this means is that the deep state is now going to Ponzi up a massive tulip mania bubble, which I want all of you to profit from massively. Because again, aren't you trying to do, the best to pivot, leverage, profit, and protect your families and create cash flows and, do it the same things that Trump and his family are doing? Trump's making all kinds of investments. His goal, along with Elon Musk, make as much money as possible. These guys fully expect to be the world's first trillionaire. So the good news is, because the dirty criminal elites are such scumbags And they're so predictable with their bailouts and their lies and their genuine racketeering, in my opinion, and their infinite bailouts and money printing, which I'm going to get into that today, that we can guarantee a super cycle hyper banana zone freak show pump, which is amazing because it means if you're in crypto and Bitcoin and you're in real world assets like this, the wealth is just going to come to you like water. Water transfers to the most valuable assets in the world. It's going to go naturally to where it's served best. And so where is that water and tidal wave moving to now, which the American people are about to stampede into? It's going into Bitcoin. It's going into, of course, tokenized real estate. It's going into gold. It's going into silver. So getting rich is actually really, really easy right now. Super, super easy. Even 0.10 Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is fractional, will probably likely make you a millionaire in the next 5 years. So that's the positive news. And as I was explaining yesterday from my Greene praying mantis, because we always be praying to Jesus, baby, Lamborghini, that you need a game plan. You should start taking profits if you're massively up along this curve, because we know where they're going to take the bubble. And right about the time the American people start really onboarding Bitcoin, it'll be at like 150 or 200K. As it really, Time Magazine's going to do exposés of crypto millionaires like me. Like, man makes $100 million in a week as a result of his crypto investment. We saw the same thing in real estate prior to the 2008-09 bust, or the dot-coms with Pets.com and other companies like it. They're going to bring in the general masses next, okay? So just understand this, and they're going to create a pandemonium, and then we're going to get a little bit of a suction before we move into the long-term trend of where all this is going. And cryptocurrency and blockchain, and Bitcoin especially, for example, is it's the currency of AI too. So think of it that way too. If you don't understand AI and you're unable to figure out how to profit from AI, if you just buy Bitcoin or you buy Island Project, for example, you're going to profit from AI because, again, this profits from all of this stuff happening. By the way, I just want to mention, because I always do this, because I like to reward our members. Just brought on a new member. You know who you are, Patrick. Patrick C. from beautiful Gilbert, Arizona. Thank you, sir. God bless you. It is an honor. The General salutes you this morning. You are amazing, sir. And we have a lot of individual investors, families, and trusts, by the way, that invest with us from the great state of Arizona, where I have some family and friends and even lived several years back. Still visit quite a bit, as you guys know. So what's going to happen next? The big story as we enter this banana zone is, and I want to talk about this, so let's talk about what Elon Musk said earlier today. Elon said he's very disappointed by Congress and our house's big, beautiful bill, okay, which was supposed to cut spending, right? But did anything but cut spending. Now, I told you this initially, that the fake they're going to cut spending was a lie. I told you this from the get-go. I said, your government will never cut costs, and they're never going to cut spending, guys. If there's anything you can just count on for the rest of your life, is the government is going to spend like a drunken sailor. And they are going to create so much destructive hyperinflation to continue wiping out the peasant class. That is the only thing that you can possibly ever count on. And so even Musk, who I believe attempted to do the right thing and was trying to actually cut costs and balance the budget and get rid of all this egregious spending, which we know there's too much government spending, even himself is now critiquing that, he feels a little bit hurt, as if all of his work was for nothing. Because the U.S. Congress just unleashed another massive $3.8 trillion of hyperinflationary scam debt in this new big, beautiful bill that's going to send the U.S. debt sky high to 41 trillion nearly in just the next few years. So again, no cost cutting. It was all political show. Your Congress failed you once again, as usual, and the government's going to print so much debt. Mwah! It's going to send Bitcoin up only like a rocket ship and make you rich if you own it, along with properties like these and real asset, because it's not hard to get rich once you understand how the scam of the American system works. And that's how you get rich. It's true, though. Doesn't sound nice, but that's how it works. Again, what did George Carlin tell you? It's one big club and you ain't in it. And that's the truth. So, now that I've ranted about that, I also want to explain, as I did before, but people didn't really like when I said it at the time, oh no, they're going to cut spending. Elon's going in there, he's going to call spending. I'm like, no, that'll never happen. Even with good intentions, it'll never, ever happen. And I told you what? That there was another ancillary deep state reason for the fake doggy politics. And guess what it was? Elon didn't get any cuts. He says so himself. But what did he get? I'm sure you can probably critically think about this, but he got all customer, consumer, U.S. citizen data. He got your home addresses. He got your bank account numbers. He got your phone numbers. He got your proclivities, I'm sure, and all kinds of extremely valuable data mining information that now he and others control single-handedly. And it was all given to a couple tech nerds that now run giant oligarchical empires. And that's actually what really happened. So again, I always tell you the truth. And the truth be told is, that was the real reason for looking under the hood. They weren't going to save you any money. No, this was about totalitarianism coming to the United States. And so let's talk about that and where all that's going as well, because it's going to move very quickly. For example, you heard it here first. By 2028, in just a few years, I expect the American workforce to be absolutely indefinitely slaughtered into unemployment. I would expect unemployment, even official rates, and there's real rates as well, to at least be 10 to 20%. As a result of the massive shift in artificial intelligence and AI. All of middle American white-collar jobs will be gone. Middle managers, basic level programmers, intermediaries, people that once provided a service where they're just collecting a fee, all of it's going to be eradicated and absolutely destroyed by guess who? The same people that have all of your data, own all of the companies, have all of the access, a monopoly on political power, and own this place. And so your government's not going to tell you that. They're not going to create a scare, right? Tell you that most of your jobs are at risk, and you should honestly be looking at that very seriously right now. Like, hey, is your current job safe? You know, they always tell you to stay safe out there. Is your current job and or career safe in an environment where self-replicating AI and artificial intelligence agents can largely replace most of the human population? Let's think about that for a minute as I take a sip of my coffee. I think you know the answer. Also, you can see how this is a perfect setup with AI. I've been putting out a lot of AI generative content with my team. It's cool. It's fun. You got me throwing Lambos in the pool. It's funny, right? There's advantages to all this stuff. It creates entertainment, and I'm sure video games will be awesome. You can self-generate yourself in a world like a Grand Theft Auto in real time, and it'll do whatever you want. Think about this in terms of television shows and Netflix and all these things. I mean, there's going to be some fun to it too. But it brings up the next stage of the totalitarian, all-seeing eye takeover of the human population worldwide. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Now, because AI reality is indistinguishable from true reality, there's a problem. And guess what that problem is? Oh, you guessed it. Your government's there to save the day again. They're going to have to verify you're real, like an actual human. And how are they going to do that? Well, they got to log you into a database, you sheep cows. And that's exactly what Sam Altman is doing with his all-seeing eye world coin orb that scans your very unique and highly valuable iris. And then what does it do with that data? Gives it right to the government and right to DARPA. And you can never, ever, ever, ever see their terms, ever delete it. So, because the problem they created with their same tech that they created, as they eradicate all the jobs and stuff too, and because they'll need to keep you safe on the internet, you're going to be forced to verify yourself as a internet of human. Are you really human? Or is this AI, for example? So they're going to start forcing the masses on this new grid. And of course, the dumbed down, idiotic sheep, as is most Americans, sorry, but it's true, will tell us things like, well, we've got to do this because there's fraud now out there and there's impersonations and there's problems with all these things that the AI has blurred the lines. So, the government didn't want to be the all-totalitarian police state of the Matrix, but they have to. So we just need to go along with and comply to everything they say, like the sheep usually do. And the government, which is extremely brilliant, knows hook, line, and sinker exactly what they're doing. So, all of this, and for those of you that don't know, Sam Altman used to rent my Jeeps in Maui before he was famous. They had already hand-selected him to be the big figure, by the way, before he was famous. They kind of pick people, right? They picked Zuckerberg, took him out of LifeLog, and then InQtel and the CIA turned it into Facebook. It used to be called LifeLog, and then it was Facebook, right? Even look at Bitcoin. What are the origins? Who's Satoshi? Nobody knows. The real elites don't show their face for a reason. And so, Sam, let's call him Sammy. I kind of like that better. Sammy has now built a company called OpenAI ChatGPT, which, by the way, came from the same people like Elon Musk. Elon Musk even started that company with Sam Altman. They're all in on it. All of them. There's an alleged war going on between open source and non-open source and private serving humanity and the good versus bad AI. Notice Elon Musk just announced, as I predicted, his new X, Black Ops X payment network, which I told you he was going to do that. Because that was the goal. Take all consumer data, all of it, doing it under the guise of, we're going to cut costs. And then a few months later, nope, didn't do any of that. No cost. I'm disappointed. There was no cost cutting, but I got all the data, which is what they did. Then launch your payment network after all the other data you have at X, and then integrate everybody into this new system, and then pitch your AI products and all this stuff into the new control grid. And then as you move the sheep along, eventually get them integrated with your other pre-planned Neuralase, which is going straight into people's foreheads, which is also known as the mark of the beast for you Christians out there, by the way. So, what I was going to say about Sammy was that Sammy just did a deal for about $6-7 billion with a person named Ivy. Forget his first name. It's like John Ivy or Joan Ivy, but it's Ivy. And Ivy was the creator and really considered the acclaimed genius for much of Apple computers, and I want to say Tim Cook, but the late Steve Jobs, creation and design of the iPhone and the iPods and all the devices. And so a deal was just signed, and Sam Altman, is purchasing his company for a big number, huge number. This was like the early days when Facebook bought WhatsApp, because again, the government wants to control all the infrastructure, every last one of it. It's why BlackRock's moving into Bitcoin now too. They got to control everything. You didn't think there was freedom here, did you? you, you didn't. You didn't actually believe there was freedom here in the United States, did you? And you weren't ruled by kings? All right. You must have went to school or something. Oh my gosh. Hilarious. All the billionaire oligarchs, none of them went to school. They're all dropouts. School's for the peasant class. I hope you figured that out. So, back to my point. Why did Sam Altman buy Ivy? And what they're saying, although it's top secret and very secretive, has to do with some kind of device that Sam is going to use with his chat GPT. Well, just like his orb, which wants to scan your eye, that they want to put everyone on, and they're going to fearmonger you over it. Well, if you don't, you can't make any money without your iris scan, because we don't know if you're real or not. We don't know if you're a human. Oh, in order to get this job that pays like crap, you're going to have to give all of your proprietary information. They don't want anything big, just your biometric information. Is that okay? How about that? Can they just get inside of you? So I suspect, I have to say it that way, I already know what it is, but the way I can say it is that what Sam Altman bought was some kind of insert, yeah, and or a combination of wearables that's going to go and merge with human beings. And that's what it is. So what's coming is we're entering a banana zone, up only, record profits, massive gains, more wealth creation than we've ever experienced in world history. Bitcoin is the new derivative of like gold. So for years, governments, for example, used gold to basically derive debt from. So you need a stable gold standard asset to create the derivative products and to create the debt, right? To create everything that Wall Street manufactures. They used gold for years. Now the new gold is Bitcoin. So think of it that way, just like Michael Saylor is issuing debt to buy Bitcoin. GameStop, I'm not sure if they're issuing debt, but they probably are. They're probably issuing debt and or equity to buy Bitcoin. They just announced that today. So all that's happening is Bitcoin, as I've always told you, it will just grow as an asset base to take over the entire world. And it'll be trading at millions and millions of dollars. And essentially, once this goes full circle, about a decade, and a lot of this will happen in 1 to 3 years in the AI space, like I mentioned with unemployment and all those problems, which they're not going to tell you about until you're fired, of course, just like they did in 2020. Remember, they just started hammering everybody and firing everyone and locking up your bank accounts and stuff because they love you. They love you so much. But what they're doing now, well, with Bitcoin, I was going to say, is that Bitcoin can be borrowed against, it can be mortgaged against, it can be securitized, it can have debt issued on top of it. It can be used with smart contracts with WBTC, which is the Ethereum version of it. It can be used to do all kinds of extraordinary things. And this is going to open up what Wall Street loves best. And take it from a guy who was a banker. What is Wall Street good at? Whoring out all these synthetic fake derivatives, pieces of crap. And the hedge funds send them back and forth and issue mortgage back, blah, blah, blah. And they scam everything up in a multi-quadrillion-dollar market. And they charge enormous fees. And they blow massive bubbles. And they borrow 100x and then flow it all into the market and build giant Ponzi schemes. Then they allow it to burst. Then they bail themselves out. Then they buy it all again and they repeat and rinse and repeat. And they just always destroy and massacre the American people left and right. It's just a constant pounding, right? And it's the same thing they're going to do now. So my wife was even asking me last night, she's like, man, like, she's like, explain to me again what you think is going to happen. And I told her, yeah, I'm so bullish. Like, obviously, everything's just going to the moon. But I said, eventually, what they're going to do is they're going to, do some kind of like panic, or they're going to create another event like a war, which, keep in mind, Donald Trump has that in his back pocket. Like, for example, and I've already calculated like a master chess player every move. So, for example, I've literally calculated with Island Project, my personal investments, the Bitcoin that I own, the crypto that I own, I've already calculated every single move the deep state can make. For example, are you prepared if suddenly, while this broadcast is going on, Israel and the United States start striking Iran? I am. Many of you probably aren't. So I've already figured out what would happen in that scenario. And what would happen in that scenario isn't really too hard to figure out. There'd immediately be a short crash. Bitcoin could probably go to like 70K, like instantly. And the stock market would crash, but there would be a quick recovery. And then as people realized that there was geopolitical regional instability, would then start funneling more and more money into Bitcoin. In fact, the same thing happened with the invasion of Ukraine. Very few people know that what Ukrainians actually did during the invasion and annexation that took place, that I predicted, by the way, with Vladimir Putin, because Ukraine has largely always been Russian. I mean, just read your history. That's the truth. But what a lot of Ukrainians did is, because their banks failed, which is going to happen in the United States, they're failing now, is that they were putting their money and pouring it into what? Bitcoin. Why? They have sovereignty. It's out of the banks. The government doesn't control it. It's unconfiscatable. You can put it in your private wallet. It has high-level encryption. Your bank doesn't have that. So your bank has very simple encryption, which is another topic I'd like to discuss quickly. So Larry Fink also posed the threat that quantum-based computers could pose a problem for Bitcoin. Well, based on his actions, he doesn't believe that at all, because notice BlackRock wants all the Bitcoin for themselves. And so they're hoarding all the native Bitcoin on their books. And then what are they doing with all that Bitcoin? They're issuing fake securities called ETFs to the American public and then charging them fees where you only have a fake paper representation of the Bitcoin. Now, it can be a good way to get some exposure if like you don't want to private your own wallet. So I understand why people buy it, and it's going to typically track Bitcoin. But keep in mind, when you own the ETF, you don't own Bitcoin. BlackRock does, right? So BlackRock's pulled it. They have all of it in their vaults, and they want as much as they possibly can. So that's how you know Larry Fink is lying, because if he really felt that way or thought that way, then he obviously wouldn't keep buying it, because they're the ones bearing all the risk, holding all the Bitcoin, and then issuing paper into infinity, backed by nothing. Because how do you know that their ETFs are really backed by Bitcoin? You don't. Again, guys, Wall Street's a scam. I hope you figure this out. So even if you look at it from a risk management perspective, even if quantum computing did pose a threat, there would be other ways around that. For example, I'm sure there'd be even insurance that you could take out against your Bitcoin and crypto positions. And that would be a whole other business model Wall Street would profit from. Again, Wall Street's really good at creating all these scams. That's what Wall Street is. So when you teach your kids about Wall Street, just teach them about fakeness. Like, when you buy a stock, do you get any part of the company? Do you own anything physical? Can you use the factory? No. You can't with Island Project, though. You own real property in a private ecosystem that's actually tangible, that has no bank debt, so it has no leverage and financial risk. I have to say there are risks. I'm not a financial advisor, but you understand what I'm saying. There's no debt. It's not like Grant Cardone, for example, whom I like. I like him a lot, but keep in mind, all of his projects are like 99% levered. So when you buy like a commercial investment from him to collect rents, like those buildings are 90% financed or more. So they're mountains and mountains of debt. Like, they're not physically owned outright. So if anything ever turns with interest rates going too high, or there another calamity like '08 and '09, it collapses. But what a lot of these guys do, and I like Cardone, so I'm not hating. He's great. But what I'm saying, Cardone's really smart, because he figured out that he was going to get so big that he's essentially another too big to fail. So Cardone has so many loans, so many billions of dollars now in debt, so much that it's so freaking mind-blowing extraordinary that even if the markets do blow up, he'll be able to go to the bank just like Trump did when his casinos blew up, or his failed real estate investments blow up, and they get to negotiate a special deal because they're insiders. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but most people, right, the average Americans, you don't get any special help. You don't get any special treatment. You're going to be slaughtered by the deep state over and over and over and over again, repeatedly. And even when they lock you in your house in 2020, they're still going to demand taxes that year. Even though they say you can't go outside and your business is closed, and they lock up your bank account so you can't make any more money, or you've got to shutter your business, they'll still demand taxes, though. Let it sink in. So again, I'm on a little bit of a rant. But the point I'm making is that expect now, because we have entered the banana zone, get into real assets, and when profits come, don't be afraid to take them. It's always a good idea to take profits. Make sure you're in real, tangible stuff where you've locked in your game. If you're lucky enough to make a few $100,000 in Bitcoin based on my advice, or $1 million in Bitcoin, like my father shared. A lot of my investors made millions at my school, so then they invest in Island Project. If you're lucky enough to do that, then make sure you at least capture some of the gain in a guaranteed investment, in a legacy investment that will outlive yourself, that can never go away because it's real and doesn't have any bank debt, and only continues to make money as real estate does over the long haul. Especially knowing that hyperinflation will only continue. They're not cutting any costs. Wall Street will continue to hooker itself out. Your government is arguably criminal. They're now transferring all of the debt from the debt they can't pay back to a new system called stablecoins, which will also be hyperinflationary. And the whole system's going to be reset and absorbed by what they already planned, artificial intelligence and robots. And as they fire every single last American into oblivion, they already figured out their social net that they pre-planned years ago. Like I told you, universal basic income. And that will be the new bread and circus for the peasants, as they've taken and stolen arguably all of the world's real assets. Every property like this, which I have to compete with these people to buy this stuff, by the way. Every time my dad and I are doing a deal, I'm competing with BlackRock and hedge funds and private equity that has unlimited funds, unlimited money, and they hate you so much because BlackRock's buying all this stuff. They want every single last one of it so they can Airbnb it out continuously, and the American people will never own a house again. They've even gone as far, they want middle America now. Jeff Bezos just launched a fractional real estate company called Arrived. It's buying up all of middle America, all the cheap homes. They want every single last one of them. They want to extort out every single American. They want you on the freaking streets. These people want their yachts. They want their space yachts. They want their private security. They want their homes. They'll continue to screw you behind closed doors. And the American people have been taking it up the ass this whole time. And you should freaking fight back with your general. You should click the link below now and get super rich at the Island Project at islandproject.com. You should vote with your wallet. You should move your money out of the criminal JP Morgan Chase that financed the child trafficking of Jeffrey Epstein. That's a fact. You should join other amazing Christian men that are blowing 1770 freaking 6, baby. We're going 1770 freaking 6, 1,000 freaking X. Because I've always told you the truth. And I've also made you freaking rich. And my advice is best in the world. And I just revealed the banana zone. What happens next in America and worldwide. Please like and share. And also follow me on X at AMTV Media. We're about to go private at 100K followers. So make sure you follow me and you get in before that. God bless you all. And I salute the American Republic and all of you tuning in. I love you all. Thank you so much.